Everyone wants to raise their credit score, but depending on who you ask, you may be getting a different answer each time. In this video, it is going to be my focus to try to clear some of this up, but mostly when exactly is the best time to pay your credit card bill in order to see the largest increase in your credit score. Hey everyone, my name is Josh and I make videos on personal finance, so if you do happen to find this video informative, I would greatly appreciate you giving this video a like and also subscribing to my YouTube channel. Okay, so the two biggest ways in which your FICO score is determined is by your payment history and also amounts owed. Believe it or not, this makes up 65% of your credit score. So whenever you first receive your credit card in the mail, you'll then activate it, and then at that point you can begin using your credit card. And obviously, since it's a credit card, you won't have to pay it off right away. So if I go to buy groceries with my credit card, I don't automatically have that amount deducted from my checking account. And of course, that's just one of the many benefits of owning a credit card. If you don't have the amount in your checking account at the time, but you do have to make a larger purchase, you can go ahead and put it on the card and then pay it off later. So with each credit card that you'll have what's called a billing cycle. And this is going to be the time that you're making all these purchases with your credit card, and before that you receive the bill from the credit card. So all the purchases that you're making during this time, everything that's posted, that's going to be what you receive on your bill. Then of course, there is what we call a closing date. And the closing date is the day in which your billing cycle closes, and also when you'll receive the bill from the credit card company. Now, from that date, you'll generally have around 21 days to pay your credit card payment in full. So if on that date you receive a bill for $800, from that date, you'll generally have around 21 days to pay in full. Now, the consequences if you don't pay in full, well, if you don't even make the minimum payment, which is either a flat amount or a certain percentage of your balance, then it will be reported as a late payment to the credit bureaus. Now, keep in mind the late payment won't be reported to the credit bureaus until you're at least 30 days past the due date. So just making sure to pay on time, even if it's just the bare minimum, it's going to make up 35% of your credit score, which is the biggest amount. Okay, so now that we went over the payment history, which again is 35% of your credit score, which is the biggest amount, let's go ahead and talk about when you should be making these payments. And this was the entire point of this video after all. When exactly should we be making these payments in order to increase our credit score the most? And the answer to that is very much dependent on what your credit card limit is. Generally speaking, credit scoring models like for you to have a credit utilization below 30%, and those with the best scores typically have a credit utilization below 10%. To find your credit utilization ratio, you want to total up all of your credit card balances and divide that amount by all of your credit card limits. So let's say, for example, if I just own one credit card and that credit card has a $1,000 credit limit, and then whenever I receive my balance, I have a balance of $800. So in that case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that balance of $800. That was the balance of $800 on the closing date. So I'm going to take that $800, I'm going to divide it by my $1,000 credit limit. So $800 divided by $1,000, that comes out to 80%, or a 80% credit utilization ratio. Now, as mentioned before, we typically want to keep that credit utilization ratio below 10%. So in my case, with an 80% credit utilization ratio, that's not going to perform so favorably with the credit scoring models. So in this case, for me personally, this is not financial advice. I personally have a couple different options. Now, the first option would be to make a $700 payment before the day of my closing date. That way, on my closing date, I'll now just have a balance of $100, because before I had a balance of $800, I make a $700 payment the day before my closing date. Therefore, on my closing date, I'll have just a balance of $100. That $100 balance will get reported to the credit bureaus, and with a $1,000 limit, I'll now just have a 10% credit utilization ratio rather than an 80% credit utilization ratio, because we're going to be taking that new balance of $100. We're going to be dividing that by my credit limit of $1,000. So 100 divided by 1,000 equals 10%. That's a 10% credit utilization ratio, which is going to perform much more favorably with the credit scoring models. Now, the second option that I would have is to pay the entire $800 balance before the closing date. That way, on my closing date, I'll have a balance of $0, which would result in a 0% credit utilization ratio. Now, you may think this would be the best option because obviously 0% would be better than 10%. It might increase your credit score even more. Well, not necessarily, because this could also result in credit bureaus seeing you as someone who is not using credit, which isn't the same as a person being able to use credit responsibly. You see, in the first scenario, I'm having a balance reported to the credit bureaus of $100, so they're seeing that I'm using the credit card, but I'm also using it responsibly because I have a very low credit utilization ratio. Well, in the second scenario, the credit bureaus are seeing that I have a balance of $0, so it looks like I'm sort of not even using my credit cards, even if I am. So in that case, you may not see many changes being made to your score. All in all though, the single most important thing that we can do to better our credit scores is to simply be making these payments on time. Sure, if we can keep our credit utilization rates below 30% and most favorably below 10%, that would be the best case scenario if we combine that with making our payments on time. But again, going back to the beginning, 35% of your credit score is made up of your payment history. 30% is the amounts owed. So these two are the most important things. But as long as you're paying on time, you're not going to be having any late payments. You're also not going to be paying any interest. And then generally, you're just going to be able to take advantage of these credit cards because you're going to be receiving all the advantages of these credit cards. You're going to be receiving these spend bonuses. You're going to be receiving the cash back and all the perks that you can receive with these credit cards. And in turn, you're not going to have to pay any interest or any fees with these credit cards. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I do hope that this video provided you with some value. And if it did, I would greatly appreciate you giving this video a like. And of course, subscribing to my YouTube channel and hitting that notification bell just so you will be the first to be notified when I do release a new video. And until next time, keep building wealth, my friends.